there being war in Syria and people dying in Syria, a place called Syria, and I thought, that's bad. That's bad. How do you put up with such terribly sad things in your place, huh? Things aren't good here. He said there was some place called Iraq, and someone in Iraq, he said that there's people in Iraq kicking other people out of their homes because of a difference in faith. Things aren't good here. It is very sad what's happening in this place. I was eating and I was listening, and he said there was some disease in a place called Africa, called Ebola, and 1,000 people already died. That's terrible. I started getting indigestion because he was saying such sad things. On and on he went. He said that someone in your own community was killed by somebody else at work just about 2 weeks back. People, things aren't good here. It is sad what happened here. It's sad. And so I finally left the restaurant because I had indigestion. I walked down the street and I came to this green area you call a park. And there were some children playing there, but there was this little child, a girl, standing by herself in a corner, and she was crying. And I went up to her and I said, what is the matter? Why aren't you playing? And she says, they called me bad names. They called me a moron. I didn't know what moron was, but it looked like it was bad for her. They called me stupid. They called me idiot. They called me fat. They called me ugly. Oh, sweetheart, I said. So I cried with her for a minute, and I said, you know, those bad names, they say more about the other children than they do about you. Because looking at you, I can tell you are not fat, and you are not ugly. So clearly they were not telling the truth. It's okay to go and play, even what they say. But I thought, you know what I thought? I thought, you know, those bad things happening all kinds of places, they begin right there with those children calling each other bad names, don't you think? When we hurt each other, no matter what, it hurts a long ways away and causes big things to happen later on in life. Yeah, I was upset, and so then I went further and I came to a thing, a building, and there was this word on the building that said cinema. I said to some man, what is cinema? He says, that's where they show movies. I say, what's a movie? He said, that's a story. I know what the story is. I said, well, what stories are being shown? He said, oh, there's a story about someone named Noah. Noah? That is my name, I said. Noah? They have a story about me? And so I went in to watch the story about me. It used my name. It used my son's name, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. It used my grandfather's name, Methuselah. But other than that, not about me. Not about me. I thought, this is not good. If we do not remember what happened a long time ago, how are we going to change what happened in the future? How are we going to act different today if we don't remember what used to happen before? And so I came to Pastor Brian. I said, Pastor Brian, is it okay if I come and talk to your people on Sunday instead of you? Because I want to tell my story. You know what Pastor Brian said? He said, that's fine with me. I don't want to preach anyway. So I said, okay. So I decided to come. So I want you to understand my story, because apparently you don't know it very well. Or maybe you know a little bit about it. But it's a good story to know. You see, I am the great-grandchild of Enoch. Do you know Enoch? Enoch in the line of Seth. Enoch became very famous because he disappeared. Some people become famous when they disappear. He was a very good man, though, Enoch. At 65 is when he had my grandfather Methuselah. And then he lived another 300 years. And then when he was 365 years old, God took him and he was no more. I mean, he was there at dinner time and then just poof, gone. God took him. God just took him. He didn't have to die. He was the only one that's ever not had to die. Except I heard there was somebody since, but I don't know his name. I think, well, it's Elijah, I guess it was. But anyway, so Enoch was the first that ever happened to, so he thought, oh, that means grandfather going to go early too. But grandfather did not. Grandfather Methuselah lived 969 years, longer than anybody else ever has lived. But Enoch walked with God. He was known for walking with God. And you know, he pleased God because he was a man of faith. It is impossible to please God without faith. Impossible. So he pleased God, and God was pleased with Enoch, and took him home early. Took him early. I come from that line. And then my grandfather, Methuselah, the one that lived 969 years, was a wonderful man. And then his son, Lamech, was my father. And Lamech had me when he was, I think he was 182 years old when I was born. And when he had me, well, his wife had me, I don't know how that works. He had me, he said prophecy over me. He said, this son will be called Noah because he will bring us comfort and he will change our world. He prophesied that something would change with me. I think he was saying that somehow my life would change lives. That my life would begin something new in this world. And indeed it did. When I was 500 years old, I had my 3 sons, Ham and Shem and Jephthah, and they had been born, and we were living, and they were married, and God spoke to me. And God said, I am done contending with the wickedness of this world, with the people in it. I am going to wipe out every living creature and begin again with your family. That was an overwhelming thing for God to say to me. I began to think that maybe Enoch had it better, for he got to leave early. But then God said, but you need to understand what the time was like. Because if you say, oh, it was just like my time, you'll not understand this time. Because the people in my time weren't just sometimes wicked or sometimes evil. They were always wicked, always evil. You and me, we have thoughts once in a while, bad thoughts or bad ideas, but most of the time we don't, right? Isn't that true? You had some bad, wicked thoughts this week, maybe today. Maybe you had a bad thought this morning, I don't know. But we have bad thoughts, but we also have good thoughts. But in that time, with the people around me, every thought of their heart was wicked. Every thought of their mind was wicked. Every inclination of the heart was wicked. This was a bad time. They were carousing with demons. Bad things were going on in my time. So they were totally rejecting not only God, but the idea of being human, the image of God inside of them. They reject that. They don't want it. And God says, in order to stop the wickedness from going any further, I must have them all wiped out. And then sometime later, he was going to talk to them after they were dead. So God would have a talk. God would do that. But so he had to do that. So he said to me, Noah, I want you to build a boat. I want you to get on the boat. I'm thinking a boat. Yeah, like a kayak, 8 people. We can fit them in it. If I make it big enough, that'll be no problem, God. Then God said he wanted the dimensions of the boat to be 450 feet long. 450 feet long? God, that's 40 houses. He said yes. 450 feet long, 45 feet high. Now this is just, 35 or something. 45 feet high and 75 feet wide. God, I said, do I have some time to build this? That might take me a while. And he said yes. So it took me a while. I was building that boat for almost 100 years. 100 years. All I did, slice acacia wood, hammer acacia wood, build a boat. It's interesting. Your building is kind of like an upside down boat. Why would it be that way? It has the ribs of a boat. It has the bottom of a boat on the ceiling. That's so odd. Why would you do that? Upside down boat. So I was working on this boat for 100 years. You know what happened when I was working on the boat? The people around me, they would come and yell at me. They would yell at me like the little girl on the playground. They would heckle me. They would say bad things to me. They would yell, and you know what I said to them? I say, it's time for you to repent and turn from your wickedness, because otherwise bad things coming to you. But they would not. My great-grandfather Enoch said that there would be a day when God came with his holy angels and judged the wicked. And I believed the day had arrived. It was 7 days until the flood was to come, and God said to me, it's 7 days until the flood is to come. I had to explain to me rain, because it had never rained before on the earth. And so we got into the boat, this big boat, and all the animals God sent got in the boat, a pair of every unclean animal, 7 pair of every clean animal, and 7 pair of every bird in all creation on that boat. So we got on the boat, and you know then, after we got on the boat, everyone on the boat, God shut the door. He did. God shut the door. You see, I want you to hear this, because this is important for you to know, that you are shut into God's work of salvation, not by your own work, but by God's work on your behalf. It is not you that makes salvation happen, it is God, and God shuts you in to salvation, as He shut my family and me into the boat. He shut us in, and we were saved through the flood because of God's action of shutting us into that boat. So we were in the boat, and the rains came down, and the floods came up. So the great deeps opened. Water came gushing from the earth. Water came gushing from the heavens. And every living creature that was outside of that boat did die, which was sad. And it was hard. We were on the boat. It rained 40 days and 40 nights. Then the rain stopped, and the water receded for 150 days. Then after 150 days, I sent out the raven. No place to land, so it comes back. So another 150 days we're on the rock and on the water, and the water receding until the boat comes to a place and it stops. It hit something. It turned out to be Mount Ararat. But so we had hit something, and we landed, and then we sent out the dove, and we were on the ark for over 1 year. I don't know, would you like to be in your house for a whole year without going outside? Maybe some of you say, no. But we were there for over a year and on the boat, and then we finally could get out of the boat. And God had renewed the face of the earth. There was grass growing, flowers were blooming, there was beauty again, the sun was shining, and God then put a bow in the clouds, a rainbow in the clouds, as a promise that He would never again wipe out the earth with a flood. But you know a bow. Have you shot with a bow and arrow before? You hold the bow, and you pull back on the arrow, and the bow bends back towards you, right? Well, this bow in the skies, God's put a bow in the skies that's like the arrow